Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got 10 games here on Tuesday night for you guys. In this one, we're taking a look at the Grizzlies and the Lake Show. Some troubling news for those Lakers fans and those of you who put some futures bets on them once this team became better, like myself. We are looking at LeBron possibly being out for a couple weeks, getting a second opinion. So we'll take a look at that. He's definitely missing this game against the Grizzlies. So that is why it's all the way up to 9 points for the Grizz. We'll jump into this one. Also got another game for you, as well as our player props that we're staying hot on already this week with you guys. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where you can check out all the great written content we have for you guys. The NBA is on fire on thelines.com right now. We also have the odds finder tool up there for you guys. You can make sure you're getting the best odds available to you from all those U.S. sports books, giving you NBA bets this season. Nate, let's get into this 10-game slate here and then talk about the Lake Show and Grizz.
And that's the first game up. Lakers, yeah, +9, as you mentioned. The total's been bet down from 233 to 230. Bulls are +5 at Toronto. The other game we break down, Bucks up to -6 at Brooklyn. Washington +7 at the new look Hawks. The Kings -2.5 at Thunder. No SGA there. Kings might counter by sitting De'Aaron Fox. Rockets are +10 at home against the Nuggets. Mavs -8.5 at home against the Pacers. Spurs +10 at Jazz. Wolves +6 at Clips. And then the Blazers +4 at the Warriors. We're not going to pick that game, but I do think the Warriors can roll Dame. The Dame and the backup dancers who just aren't able to do anything right now other than watch Dame be amazing. But we're talking about the Lakers and their supporting cast and how they're going to respond now to LeBron James being out multiple weeks, if not maybe even the rest of the season, shortly after saying, we're going to come out of this break like our hair's on fire. We're going to play our way into the play-in and higher maybe, and pulling off the biggest comeback of the season in Dallas, and then they get this big blow. Certainly it makes you like the under, which is why we've seen it bet down 3 points already. The Lakers in 6 games without LeBron this year, averaging just 109 a game versus 121 with him. Assist to turnover ratio is dreadful. They're only hitting 9 threes per game. The thing is, both these teams are terrible three-point shooting teams. Both these teams like to bang down low. Both teams limit the opposition scoring down low. And at a top 10 rate, basically, I'm looking at the fact that the Lakers are the number one free throw defense, not just since this trade, but over the last 8-9 games or so. They've gone under in 5 of their last 6 since the trade deadline. The exception being Damian Lillard going off. And under in 5 of their last 6 without LeBron. Again, the exception is that Blazers game where they lost without him. Memphis going through their own struggles without Steven Adams, and you might think it's the defensive side of the ball that they can't guard the paint as much without maybe the strongest man in the NBA. But Xavier Tillman's done a fine job defensively filling that 5 role. It's their offense that's struggled. They score 5 points per game fewer without him. They have lost 8 of their last 13 now without him. Similar defensive rating, similar pace. But now we're talking, steady under and a pace that's gone down to 98.6 in their last 7 home games. Scoring 112, only giving up 104. So 233 was definitely too high. It's getting bet down at this point. But still like it based on the fact that LeBron's out. That, the Lakers, if it's gut check time and if they're going to battle to at least cover in this game, you'd think that it's going to be a physical game, a sloppy game where there's not a lot of threes going in. Both these teams averaging about 11 or less, and not a ton of free throws either, but just a lot of interior tough play with guys like Jared Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis and Triple J on the other end of the court. Just a lot of mucked up play in the paint.
Yeah, a lot of mucked up play for sure. AD was the first place. Obviously, I looked for some props potentially really high at 27.5 points. And then, the rebounds at about 13.5, 12.5, depending on what kind of odds you want to get back. That's a lot. It is a team. They are playing a team in Memphis who can't rebound apparently without Steven Jackson. You talk about 8 and 9 without him this season and in this last stretch as well. Over the course of their last 9 games or so, they are like the 26th best rebounding team, right? So 5th worst essentially. And that's just a complete turnaround from what they used to be. And that's how their lineup is constructed, to be honest with you, is they have good rebounding guards. And that's fine and well, but when you don't really have a center down low, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is obviously super undersized, despite what he's able to do as a rim protector, not a rebounder. And that's a big opportunity for the Lakers, who have been so much better. And it really started with the Rui trade. We talked about that a few weeks ago, but it started with the Rui trade, just getting somebody who can get you 7 rebounds a game and at least fill in the paint, especially on that second unit. Well, ever since they've gotten, the team that they have now as well, Vanderbilt adding to what they do, and LeBron being crucial to rebounding as well, they've become a really, really good rebounding team. And everything that the Lakers have done on defense, I believe in since, they've gotten this new look team on their side, and Vanderbilt being a huge reason for that. We've talked about that. Malik Beasley holds his own on defense as well. And Rui hasn't been a turnstile, at least, and like I said, a big body down low for them. So they've looked much better. They've limited fast points. They've limited a lot of the things that Memphis does to score, second chance points, and things of that nature. Like, they're banging down low and getting boards with guys outside of just AD at this point, obviously, which is super helpful. But I would still say that there's going to be some trouble for them in scoring, and that's what we're going to see tonight, especially with D'Lo out. That makes their second unit a lot worse, and that's kind of what's been the case for them in the minutes that LeBron, AD are not on the floor, and it's really mostly, it's not even really a Schroeder-led offense on the second unit anymore, because Schroeder's not out there with them. He's on the starting lineup with D'Lo out, which is a big blow to them. So they've had a really bad second unit since basically since these trades have happened, and especially when LeBron isn't out. And in their last 5, I mean, you talk about what they've been doing without him, in 6 without him since since January. I was looking at the 3 that he was out as well since this trade happened, and still ugly for them. I mean, they went 1-2, only beating, I believe, one of the worst teams in the league in that stand. So I don't believe in them too much. I don't believe in Memphis right now either, to be honest, is the thing. And even at home, they have not been nearly as impressive as they were last year. I mean, 13-13 against the spread this season when they are home favorites. That's a stat that last year was, pretty much number 1 in the league for them when they were at home as the favorite. They were crushing teams. They're actually failing to cover by 4 points a game in these spreads where they're favored at home like this. So I don't like the situation for them. I like the situation for LA. I don't know how they're going to respond, because I didn't like what I saw from them when LeBron was out, and even after they got these guys. He is a huge part of what makes everything around them successful. Even when they do have good wing players like they finally do, still a matter. It's still about LeBron and AD. They have like a 68% winning percentage with LeBron and AD on the floor. That drops to about 42 without them in the largest sample size over the last 3 seasons. So I don't trust them to necessarily cover. I'm probably staying away from that, but I do prefer an under, because I don't even know if LA is going to be able to hang around to get this thing over 234.
I do think they cover, and I think it's because of what you touched on, the poor rebounding from Memphis. I mean, they're still top 5 in paint points allowed in these last 7 home games without Adams, but 9th most second chance points allowed. And that's exactly like how you picture this offense functioning with Jared Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis up front. Is they're just going to be scrappy, and they're going to get extra possessions, and they're going to try to bang down low. Exactly what you would like to see from the Lakers. I mean, there should at least be an initial lift here with LeBron out. If we don't get news that he's out for the season, then it could be kind of a deflating. But they've been winning games despite the 5th worst shooting 3-point shooting percentage. Since these trade deadline moves, they've been winning them with defense. The number 1 rebounding team, number 4 defensive rating, 4th limiting assist to field goals, and 9th limiting paint points, and all the things you need to do against Memphis, which is just not the same team as last year, like you said, and actually snapped their 11-game win streak against Bron and the Lakers no Anthony Davis in that game, and LeBron was already playing hurt. He's been dealing with this for a while. So, the supporting cast is better at this point. I know with D'Lo out, the second unit is a bit of a concern, but Anthony Davis carried this team to eight of 10 wins with LeBron out in December. And I think he can at least carry them to be competitive, if not potentially win this game, because there's nothing about Memphis that says they're consistent. They could run away, but I would not take them.
No, you're right there. Like, if anything, and you're touching that spread, you're definitely taking the Lakers to cover more than anything. AD is going to need to rattle off a streak of games where he puts up 35 and 15 the way he did during that win streak that you're talking about. They managed to win about 5 in a row at one point, and that was completely because AD was averaging like 37 points a game. They're going to need some more of that from him, some 40-point games in there, and definitely some 15 to 20 rebound games, but we'll see what he's got. We made the joke, like, he's got to put them on his back. Hopefully he doesn't get a hurt back at this point, and be out for a few weeks. So
the Nets and the Bucks, and really this is another opportunity for PSA to bet against the Nets, fade them making the playoffs or being in the play-in, because they're now only one game ahead of Miami in the win column, a few in the loss column because they've played more games, but they are, this is a tough stretch that we highlighted. Sure enough, they have not shown anything to indicate that they're going to be able to compete with these top 12 teams in the East that are all trying to pass them or knock them further down the standings. They did bounce back from just an absolute slaughter last Friday in Chicago to, play a high-scoring game at Atlanta, but the defense was just abysmal. They let the worst three-point shooting team in the league hit 16 threes at 53%. They got out-rebounded. Nick Claxton can't stay on the floor because his offense isn't fitting without Kyrie and Durant. Now you're facing a Milwaukee team that's number 1 in rebounding, number 3 limiting assists, anything they want to do, they're tops there. Three-pointers are really the biggest barometer, though, and that's what, Milwaukee is number 1 in that, on the road in the entire season, and then recently allowing under 30% wherever they're playing over their last 8 games here. So if you look at Brooklyn, how they've been able to actually win in the post-Kyrie era, if they hit a bunch of threes, and that's not even a guarantee. Like, they have...
Yeah.
They're 2-3 at home in this situation. They've hit at least 17 threes in both wins. They hit 16 in a loss. In the other losses, they shot 32% against Philly and Phoenix. Two teams that, when you look at a lot of these numbers defensively, what they limit, very similar to Milwaukee, which is to just say, towards the top of the league. And Brooklyn's been pretty good defending the three-point line on the season, but lately that's the bottom's kind of fallen off there. And Milwaukee's just obviously more versatile. They do score a high percentage of points off threes, but they also score a ton of unassisted twos, aka Giannis. And now with no Durant out there, Giannis has already had some pretty big games against the Nets. The Bucks have won 6 of their last 8 against the Nets in the regular season. And the exceptions, are usually when Kyrie or KD go off or the Nets hit a bunch of trays playing off them. I don't see any of that happening here. At 230, after it's been bet up, the under is kind of in play here because I don't think the Nets are really – they're a threat to not score, 100. A rare NBA team right now that if it's just not – working for Dinwiddie, like we saw in Chicago, they're just going to get crushed. But I think the spread is fine, -6. Milwaukee's a little less reliable on the road, so if you did want to tease it with something else, that is the option I threw out there.
Yeah, that's fine. It's true that the spread it's at 6.5, and like Milwaukee's not that good on the road, covering, throughout the season anyway, but it is sort of been a new day, right, for them in the last 14 games that they've won. They're obviously a much different team. Piling on to the futures that we talked about with Brooklyn fading them to be in the playoffs outright, and taking them to be in the play-in tournament for sure as well, which is continuing to bear fruit as the Knicks are super hot as well, winning 5 in a row. A big reason that we liked Brooklyn to slide was the likelihood that Miami and New York were able to overtake them as much as anything, and now they're losing, helping us out entirely as well. So everything's kind of going in that direction right now. And the other one was Milwaukee, to potentially win the East when they were half a game back, and you're getting plus 210 odds or plus 220 for them to just overtake Boston by half a game. Even if you think Boston's really good, right now Milwaukee's back in first, and this would be an opportunity to go up by a full game, I believe. So this is a good opportunity for them. Giannis is probable in, which is also why you just feel good about them being able to sort of get theirs against this Brooklyn team. I don't know what defense Brooklyn's really able to pose when against this team right now. I mean, Giannis, to be fair to them, I mean, if you look at what Giannis has done against the Suns, let's say like you like Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges to sort of be the consistencies here, and against the Suns in the last couple games in the regular season, Giannis, dating back to last season in the regular season, didn't have solid numbers against them, failed to score 20 points twice against them. Of course, that's also coming after a playoff series where he dropped 50 in a game series clincher. So I don't know what you want to do with that and him, but either way, they're not able to stop what this team does well. I know they've been limiting teams shooting threes decently well, but they're still giving up a super high percentage as they're not really able to necessarily get all over the floor, and definitely a much worse team down low at this point. Nick Claxton not able to stay on the floor is a huge part of all that. Like you were saying, his inability on offense to really click. Same with Royce O'Neal, another really solid rebounder for them, from his position at forward, and obviously Ben Simmons would have been great to be able to help them get rebounds as well. All those guys not able to really play in a system where they don't have stars on offense to be able to score for them, right? And put them in positions to score. There's no one able to do that for them at this point, which is, in terms of a ball handling playmaker. So that means that they're also now that's hurt them down low, right? 17th in opponent points in the paint over their last 5 games. That's down from like 9th on the season when Nick Claxton was in there being the best, one of, if not the best rim protector in the league alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. Their defensive rebounding percentage all the way down to 22nd, and those 2-point percentage as well for their opponents down to 27th in the league for Brooklyn, because they don't really have anybody down low to defend those 2-pointers. And even the mid-range that I thought they'd do a much better job of defending, still giving up a ton of points from there as well. So they're going to have to shoot lights out to be able to even hang with this team and make in their wins, in their last 5 games, or excuse me, since the trade basically in this on the 7th or so of February, they're making 17 threes. In their losses, they're making 12. So that's just how they're going to have to win. That's 15 points per game that they need from the 3-point line to be able to win against these teams. And the same for Milwaukee, who's also now back to defending the 3 in terms of third, in terms of in their during this run, limiting opponents' 3-pointers made. You talk about limiting assists and down low, the rebound percentage. You talked about all that. I think they're just going to dominate Brooklyn down there. And outside of a crazy anomaly game where Brooklyn just goes off from 3, even 231.5 feels like a pretty good under right now. It got bet up for me to be able to bet under it because of the fact that all these impressive numbers for Milwaukee defensively, number 1 opponent field goal percentage, all that stuff we talk about, they're even better when they're on the road in their last 4 during this win streak. They're playing at a 99.5 pace in their last 4 on the road as well, which is down from that 103.5 that they've been playing at over the course of this 14-game winning streak. Fewer points, 7 fewer free throw attempts when they're on the road right now than when they are at home. Not a surprising number, but it's a big number and a big difference for them in terms of obviously Giannis getting a ton of free throws at home versus on the road where they're not getting quite as many calls. So it just seems to be a little bit sloppier. And if both these teams can limit threes decently, then this should be able to go under. But I think Milwaukee can cover this unless there's just going to be some, Brooklyn's pulling something out of their ass that we're not seeing right now.
Yeah, and both these teams limit fast break points, which is key. Even if you talk about if Milwaukee's going to play that increased pace, if they're going to get 118, I don't know if they will be able to score as consistently in the half court if Brooklyn gets back the way they have been under Jacques Vaughn. So that does, definitely makes me have some more faith in the under. The fact that Milwaukee's gone under in 4 straight on the road because of those exact metrics you're mentioning. I am a little concerned just because Brooklyn's been pummeled lately, and they're 25th in defensive rating in this 8-game sample. Yeah. But when these teams get together, it is. I mean, it's a new Nets team, of course, but it tends to be competitive. I mean, they had that epic playoff series, and it tends to be low scoring. And I think Jacques Vaughn is maybe a guy who's put in some good game plans against Giannis. I mean, the last time they played in December, granted they had KD out there, but the Nets won and Giannis was really limited. 26 points, which for him is a bad game, and 7 turnovers, I believe. So credit Jacques Vaughn for being at the helm and doing that. And I think that probably keeps Milwaukee under 120 and therefore probably keeps us under this total.
Nate, let's go ahead and jump into our first NBA play-up prop for tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Hawks, and Nate McMillan is a good coach, don't get me wrong, but Quinn Snyder is one of the best offensive minds I think we've seen in the modern NBA, and I think the Hawks are going to be a top 10 offense the rest of the way, if not even better under him, and it's really going to help DeJounte Murray find his swing. I mean, how long has Snyder been coaching against this guy on the Spurs and seeing what he's capable of? And now he's putting up Spursian numbers in just a 2-game sample size so far, 26.5 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists with a 130 offensive rating under Snyder. His usage rate has gone up to about 29%. It was closer to 23% under McMillan. So DeJounte, 30.5 PRA is where I lean there. You get minus 120 on him to score 20 points. I would maybe juice that up a little bit here, but they're playing the Wizards, probably without Porzingis, probably without John Collins on the Hawks side. And for what it's worth, 4 games without JC this year, DeJounte again averaging 26, 6, and 6. So he's going to be a little bit more involved, a little more backcourt centric. The Wiz are allowing the 3rd most assists, 6th most points to shooting guards in their last 15. And he's averaged huge numbers as a member of the Spurs against the Wiz. 26 points per game, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, has a triple-double in 2 of his last 4 against this team. And just not for nothing, plus 5,500 at FanDuel for him to get a triple-double. He did come within 3 peripheral stats of that against Cleveland. An excellent defense. It's just a question of, is Washington going to be able to score? Because they were awful in their last game. Atlanta could blow them out. But I think if it's not a blowout, I don't think there's any way DeJounte goes under 30 PRA.
Yeah, if he's going to be playing the way he does, like you said, under Quinn Snyder, I hope he's been able to have an impact already. It seems like he has. I think it's just that weird time of year where Trae Young gets his coach fired and then they play super well in the last 25 games of the season as a team whenever that happens for whatever reason. Either way, it seems like if DeJounte is going to be able to figure out how to play with him, I would tell you on that one with the peripherals in there as well. So a guy we should have been talking about a little bit a while ago probably, and I think we've taken him once or twice in here, but Klay Thompson is just on fire right now. He's playing like he probably the best ball that he's ever played, to be honest, during this stretch. You can take him with the points, you can take him with points and assists. It's 29.5 points and assists for slightly better juice there, minus 115 on DK. The 2.5 assists is minus 105. Obviously the points are always there for him. Those are at 26.5 with just the points, but he's had 31 points in back-to-back outings versus Portland without Steph. A 30% usage in that time frame during 37 minutes per game for the young man there. 7 threes made on 17 attempts. That's like not even Klay. That's not Steph Curry world. That's nobody's world. That's just Klay Thompson's world right now. Maybe some Dame Lillard in there as his prop is at 37.5 points. But the 7 threes, man, on 17 attempts is some wild stuff. His last 5 at home going bananas, 31.5 points a game, 4.5 boards, and then about 3 assists in there as well. The 30% usage right where he's at in 34 minutes a game there, still making more than 7 threes per game in his last 5 on just actually 14.5 attempts. And look, we're playing Portland tonight. If you're the Dubs, that is Portland, as we call them, worst D in the world, definitely about 130 defensive rating in their last 5 games alone. And so you just look at what they've been doing with Nurk, without Nurk, really doesn't matter. It's just been really, really gross, giving up a bunch of points to Houston as well. So I think you've got to expect the Dubs offense at home to be coming alive here a bit. And we do like a lot of points to be scored in this game, which means Klay is going to be doing a lot of that.
Yeah, because Poole's kind of gone ice cold too, and he's not being the, you look at a matchup with Portland as like, okay, who are the opposing guards? Because Dame's going to go off, but he's not going to have any energy left to play defense. They don't have any defenders in the backcourt because they traded them all. So Clay should, the points are, you're not getting good juice. You're incredibly getting up minus 165 or into 5 threes because of some of those numbers you put out there. So that's why I want to combo it with the assists or just take 3 assists maybe. Because it's just going to be an all-around clinic, I think, from the Warriors. I would look at the over on their team total and the over in this game at 235 or teasing it down a little bit. I think there should be plenty of points when these teams get together. The other game we break down here is Bucks Nets, and while we worry about the Nets offense producing, I'm still willing to take an over on Cam Johnson. I mean, I think he's part of the future plans of this team, obviously, and they're going to keep giving him opportunities. He's played 5 games with the Nets and has about a 24% usage rate. More importantly, he's playing 30 minutes per game. And you know, as a per 36 guy this season, 20 points per game, 3.5 threes. He just hasn't shot that well with the Nets. I mean, he's still averaging 18 in his last 3, but if he was able to hit closer to the 45% from 3 that he hit with the Suns earlier this season instead of 30% with the Nets, you know, we're going to start to see the points flow a little bit more consistently. I mean, he is coming off an 18-point game. He has attempted 17 threes, 26 threes over his last 3 here. So he's got the green light for sure. And, you know, when he's faced the Bucks as a member of the Suns, he's 9 for 17 from deep. That's good for 52% in just 22 minutes per game over 3 meetings. So 14.5 points, even money, and the plus money on him to hit 3 threes when he's taking 8 to 10 a game. I know the Bucks try to determine who they want to take the threes, and they might try to, avoid that with Cam, but I think he will get his attempts up there, and just I'm following the minutes here to assume that he's going to score a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's about the minutes with him. I hope my thought process would be he'd get a bit more minutes as a big 6'10" body who can, defend a few different positions, which is what you need to do against a Bucks front court and even back court that's super tall and strong. So sure, for him, I worry about points in this game a bit. I know it got bet up, but I think we still like, the Bucks defense on the road, especially. So a bit of a scary one, but the 14.5 points and even you're getting good odds for him though tonight. So I think he should continue to be a consistent between Heeb, Dinwiddie, and Bridges at this point. Like that's your top 3 options in offense. So you're going to be getting the bulk of the points from those 3 spots. So I'm going to close things out with my guy, Jakob Poeltl. Glad to be able to talk about him killing it back on the Raps for the second time, obviously, in his career. And now we're calling it the Jakob Poeltl error. It never was considered that, but I think we should be talking about it as such. Definitely a lot better with him in there, playing some soft comp, but, I think they're going to be pretty good against, by the way, a Chicago team that's got the best defensive rating in the last 15 games in the league. Also, the best rebounding team in the league. So I think you're getting a little bit of value on Poeltl at 20.5 points in rebounds. That's minus 110 on DK. The rebounds alone are 8.5. That's about minus 115. Pretty much the same odds there if you just want the boards. But I mean, with Toronto in 6 games, 14 points a game and about 10 boards, 9.8 in there, that gets you over the 20.5 easily. But if you even just look over the last 4 games after he started getting more minutes, because in those first 2 they were kind of working him in. He had 17 minutes in the first game, 25 minutes in the second game. Now you look at the last 4 since he's gotten in the groove with the squad, and he's up to more than 30 minutes a game. And in those 4, 18.5 points almost gets you to the points and rebounds right there. 12.5 rebounds per game as well. That's, like I said, an increase in those minutes. His last 4 versus Chicago when he's on the Spurs, he went over that prop each time as well. 17.5 points and 10.5 boards in there. If you do think he can get 10 boards, a double-double for the man is plus 225 tonight. I think he's slotted himself in as an 18 and 10 guy at this point. The double-double at plus 225 is probably it's really nice odds there for a guy who's been averaging 12.5 boards in his last 4. Like I said, I think the Poeltl over the last 4 games for this team is the Poeltl you can continue to expect to see with 30 minutes a game. So this prop still remains way too low, and it's my favorite one of the day.
Yeah, look at this. The Raptors are going up. Hawks going up. Bulls going up defensively. We saw the Knicks beat the Celtics. We saw the Heat beat the Sixers. And who does that leave as the odd man out? The Brooklyn Nets. And why people did you not bet plus 800? Now it's down to plus 400 that they'll be knocked out of the playoffs by the end of this thing. It is still available for you to take. And, why bother with the player props or in addition to them? just go and get 4-1 on your money on that, because the rest of these Eastern Conference teams are coming.
Yes, sir. And we talked about the Raptors plus 185 to make the playoffs as well, to get through the play-in tournament where they're kind of firmly cementing themselves. So a big big game for them tonight either way. But yeah, always good to be able to talk about fading the Nets futures right now and being able to pick up on some other teams like the Knicks and company. So that's all the time we have for you in our Player Props episode today. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along as we are staying wicked hot for the rest of this season on these Player Props with you guys. Until we see you next, happy betting.